Welcome to Slash Forward. This episode is going to suck hard as we look at Attack of the Giant Leeches. If you enjoy fishing with dynamite, try subscribing to the channel instead. Let's get to it. We open in a boggy marsh where the town pervert is doing some nighttime rowing, looking for some soft mosses in which to roll around naked, on account of he likes the way it makes his body feel. But he sees a strange critter in the murky waters and gets to shooting instead. Then we transition to a jazzy country hoedown where Thick Willie calls in his wife Liz to explain her music to his friends. Instead, she tells him to go blow himself. Then Lem busts in and starts in with a crazy story about an epic battle he had in the marsh, but they laugh him off. Willie tries to smooth things over with Liz, but she reminds him why she's in control, and she leaves with no explanation because she owes him nothing. Back at the swamp, the local game warden Steve is out on a hot date cutting poachers' lines. The inherent danger in this activity ends up paying off sexually. They're interrupted by a shriek in the night. He comes across Liz and threatens to blow her face off for disrespecting the noise ordinance. The coroner declares the cause of death to be misadventure, which is enough for the sheriff, who doesn't intend to look into it further. But Steve's not satisfied, and he works with the doc about figuring what it might have been. If it were an animal like what Lem shot up before, what are they, and how many are there? We then find Liz endeavoring to leave town, which is perfect for Cal, who's been looking to engage in some spicy cuckoldry. Pretty soon, they're rolling around in the muck, getting dirty, and talking about their personal problems. Unfortunately for them, this path is where Willie goes lumbering at night, hoping to stumble across young couples making love. Rather than appreciating his wife's blooming sexuality like a real man, he marches them through the swamp at gunpoint. Cal tries to insist he was under the influence of Liz's feminine wiles, but Willie's uncaring, and he forces them into the water to cool off. He eventually decides to let them out, but finds they belong to the Leeches now. The sheriff assumes this all to be a trick, and that Willie actually murdered them and is using the story to cover his tracks, even though they wouldn't know anything at all if he hadn't said something. As a couple of men from town go looking for the bodies, hoping to pick up a couple of bucks, we witness them get dragged back to the lair, where the Leeches are keeping all their victims alive, sucking them dry over time for sustenance. There's a search party for the men who are not found, and it's noted there's also a conspicuous absence of gators in the swamp, implying the possibility that a new apex predator has taken over. Steve tries to work this out with the doc, and ultimately decides to do some diving to see what they can dredge up, but he has to wait on his gear like an idiot. In the meantime, the doc gets the job done by dynamiting the swamp, which disappoints Steve because of the recklessness, but you can't argue with results. And before long, bodies start popping up like turtles on the surface of the water. The doc informs Steve that the bodies were bloodless and only recently deceased despite being gone for several days in some cases. Excited about the implications, Steve hops up quickly, showing off his VPL like a braggart, and is determined to go diving for an underwater cave where Liz might still be alive. He and his buddy Mike get their diving gear on, and as Steve is dicking around with the Leeches, Liz bubbles up to the surface. With her saved, they tag team the Leech and do what comes naturally to man, submitting nature to his will through sheer aggression. The movie ends as they blow up the whole swamp to avoid the loss of any more human life. Another Corman classic, Attack of the Giant Leeches, was corny as hell, but I think it represents an improvement in the low-budget creature features of the time. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.